Hi everyone. So today we're going to see the first chapter, which is the last lesson. Well, it's a bit ironic, but still. So the author is Alphonse Daudet. He was a French novelist. Now the story, the last lesson, is set in the days of war between France and Prussia. In that time, Prussia consisted of Germany, Poland, and parts of Austria. So in this particular war took place between the years 1870 to 1871, and in the war France was defeated by the Prussia, and the Prussia was led by Bismarck. And in this story we're going to see that French districts of Alsace and Lorraine, those are two districts in France, Alsace and Lorraine, so this has been passed to the Prussian hands. We already told that France lost the war, so this particular districts were passed on to Prussian hands, and we're going to see what effect this had on life at school at that time. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding, especially because Hamel had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. So our hero is little Franz, and on that particular day he was very late for school in the morning, and he was too afraid of getting a scolding from home from Mr. Hamel. So Mr. Hamel is Franz's French teacher, and what did his teacher tell? Everyone should learn the participles and come. He was teaching the French grammar, and he told that everyone should learn the participles and come, that his teacher would question them on the participles. And our little poor Franz didn't know first word about the participles. He wasn't very good in French grammar. For a moment I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. So for a second there, what did Franz think? Oh, it's better to just run away and not go to school. It is better to just bunk the school and spend the day outside. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill the Prussian soldiers were drilling. So when he looked outdoors, he saw that it was so warm, and the perfect morning it was. It was bright and it was warm. He could hear the birds were making noise at the edge of the woods, and in the field back of the sawmill the Prussian soldiers were doing a drill. So it was the perfect morning to bunk school, he thought. It was all much more tempting than the rule for participles, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. So all this outside scenery was so much tempting than the participles that he had to learn at school. But somehow he managed the strength. He was courage enough to resist bunking the school and hurried off to school suddenly. He went to school, he ran to school suddenly. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. So what's a bulletin board? Bulletin board is somewhere, it is like a notice board. In the older days, there was no television and all. Now we get to know all the news is on the television, right? So in olden days, what they used to do was they used to put up the board notices in the bulletin board for everyone to know the updates or the new news. So when Franz passed down the town hall, now he saw that there was a huge crowd. There were many people in front of the bulletin board. So some new news had come in. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer. And I thought to myself without stopping, what can be the matter now? So when Franz went down the town, he saw that there is a huge crowd in front of the bulletin board, and he knew that and he was saying himself, all the bad news had for the past 2 years, all bad news had come from there. That they lost the battle, the draft, the new orders of the commanding officer, everything had come from there. And without stopping, he couldn't stop because he was obviously late in that morning, so he couldn't stop. But he was wondering what can be the matter now. Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin called after me, "Don't go so fast, Bob. You will get your school in plenty of time." So as Franz was running past the bulletin board, there was a blacksmith whose name was Watcher, and he was calling out. And what did he say, Franz? Don't go so fast, Bob. You will get to your school in plenty of time. So he told Franz, there is no need to hurry down to your school. He will get there in plenty of time. And he was with his apprentice. Who's an apprentice? Apprentice is just someone who is, like working with a skilled person to know the work, to learn the work. I thought he was making fun of me and reached Hamel's little garden all out of breath. So when the blacksmith said there is no need to hurry out, so what did Franz think? Oh, he's just making fun of me. He's just making fun because I was late for school. And in that thought, he reached Mr. Hamel's little garden all out of breath because he was running from his home to the place. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison, very loud and with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. So usually on a school day, like when the school began, there'll be a lot of noise, right? Normally there'll be a great bustle going on, the opening and closing of doors, and we will have the students telling something or learning something or just reading something in unison all together, and then they can even hear the teacher's great ruler just rapping on the table. Rapping is what? It's just striking the ruler on the table. When the ruler strikes the table, there will be a sound heard. So that is referred to as the rapping of the ruler on the table. But now it was all so still. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. But of course, that day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. So, what was little Franz thinking? Oh, yeah, when I reach there will be a lot of bustle going on so that I can just get in without being so much noticed. But then, alas, what to do? That very day, everything had to be so quiet, just like a Sunday morning. Sunday morning means what the school is not there, right, on a Sunday morning, so everything was so quiet. Through the window I saw my classmates already in their places and Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. So when our little Franz looked through the window, he saw that all his classmates are already in their seats, and he saw Mr. Hamel just walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler in his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. So now what to do? Everyone is there, but he has to somehow get into the class. So he had to just open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. So it's understandable that he was red in face, he was blushed, and he was frightened also. Oh, now what to do? Now that I'm late, teacher is obviously gonna scold me in front of everyone. But nothing happened. And Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you." But nothing happened. The teacher did not scold him. He did not use his iron ruler. He only said, he saw Franz and told him, "Please go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning the class without you." I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt and little black silk cap, all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that were always empty the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hauser with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others besides. So after sitting in his desk, Franz took a little time to overcome all the fright he had, and when he had done that, he noticed one thing. He noticed that his teacher was nicely dressed. His teacher had on his frilled shirt, his beautiful green coat, and little black silk cap. And he knew that the teacher wore all this cloth only on special days like the prize days or the inspection days. And besides that, he also noticed something else. The whole school was a little strange and solemn that day. There was something amiss, that he could feel that this is not how normal school day was. Now, when he looked over to the last benches, it is usually empty. The last benches were usually empty, but then when he looked over, he saw that it was not empty today. The village people were sitting there quietly, and this is the one thing that surprised him the most. There were old Hauser with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others from the village. Everybody looked sad, and Hauser had brought an old primer thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages. So everybody was looking sad, and Hauser had bought a primer with him. So what is a primer? A primer is an elementary kind of a book which is used by the beginners to learn a particular language. So he had a primer with him. It was an old primer, and since it was an old primer, it was thumbed at the edges. What does thumbed at the edges means? It means that the edges were worn out. Obviously, because it was old, it had been going through a lot of use, and the edges were worn out. And he held it open on his knees with his spectacles lying across the pages. While I was wondering about it all, Hamel mounted his chair, and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you." So when our little Franz was wondering about all these things, why it is silent, why we have all the village people in the back bench and everything, so that is when Hamel mounted his chair, and in a gentle tone, what did he say? He told, "My children, this is the last lesson that you will have from me. That's the last lesson that I shall give you." The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. So why did the teacher say that it would be the last French lesson that he shall give the children? It was because an order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. So we already told in the beginning of the chapter that the story was set when it was during the France and Prussian War. And who won the war? The Prussians won the war. And the districts of Alsace and Lorraine has gone into the Prussian hands. And so now the Prussia said there is no need of teaching any French in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Now they have to learn only German. And so the new teacher will be coming the next day. So this will be the last French class that the students were going to receive. So the teacher said, you have to be very attentive because this will be the last lesson that I'm going to teach you. What a thunderclap these words were to me. Oh, the wretches. That was what they had put up at the town hall. Now all the teacher's words came as a shock to our little Franz. Now he understood that this was what was kept in the bulletin board while he was hurrying down to the school. My last French lesson. Why, I hardly know how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop there then. Now he is fully shocked that this will be his last French lesson, and he is thinking, oh, he doesn't even know how to write, and now they're saying that he has to stop learning French right now. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking birds' eggs or going sliding on the Saar. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry. My grammar and my history of the saints were all friends now that I couldn't give up. My last French lesson. Why, I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop there then. So what was going through Franz's mind when he heard his teacher's words? He was thinking, oh no, this is my last French lesson then. I don't even know how to write. But then I have to stop now because they are not supposed to learn French anymore. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking birds' eggs or going sliding on the Saar. So now he is feeling sorry that he did not learn his lessons when he had the chance to learn them. Instead, what did he do? He bunked classes and went and search for bird's egg or going out to play. All those things he was doing instead of learning his French lessons. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry, my grammar and my history of the saints were all friends now that I couldn't give up. So till now he felt that, oh, this are all, I have to carry all these books to school. He didn't want to learn French, he didn't want to learn his grammar, but now all those books which was heavy a while ago, now he's feeling that they are old friends. And Hamel too, the idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Even though his teacher was bad-tempered and he used his iron ruler to punish them, now when Franz heard that, oh no, they cannot learn French anymore, now he felt that, oh, it doesn't matter that he has a ruler or how cranky the teacher was. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes, and now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. And now he understood why the teacher was wearing the fine Sunday clothes. We told the teacher was wearing the green coat and frill shirt and everything. So now Franz understood why he was wearing those clothes. It was to honor the last lesson that he was teaching them. And he even understood why the old men of the village were sitting in the back bench. It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. That was because they were also feeling bad that they did not go to school more. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. It was the villagers' way of saying thank you to Hamel for teaching them for 40 years, for his service of 40 years. And see, it's written, and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. Why is it not theirs anymore? Because in the war, France had lost the war, and France was now in the hands of the towns were now in the hands of Prussia. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. Oh no, now what happened? While Franz was thinking of all these things, what happened? The teacher called Franz to recite his lesson, recite his grammar, the participles. Remember, we told that this was the day when he will be questioning the children about participles. Now it was Franz's turn to recite them. What would I not have given to be able to see that dreadful rule for the participles all throughout, very loud and clear and without one mistake. Now Franz is thinking, oh no, only if I could say the participles without any mistake, very loud and clear. Oh my God, I would have given anything to be able to do that. But now I cannot. Of course, he doesn't know, he did not learn. But I got mixed up on the first words and stood there holding onto my desk, my heart beating and not daring to look up. But Franz could not say the words, and even he could only just manage a few words, and he got stuck in between. Now he just stood there holding onto his desk, and his heart was beating very fast. But he did not dare to look up. He could not just face the teacher. I heard Hamel say to me, I won't scold you, little Franz. You must feel bad enough. But what did the teacher say? Don't worry, I'm not going to shout at you, or I'm not going to scold you. Even without me scolding you, you must be feeling bad enough that you cannot recite the participles in the last class. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, bah, we have plenty of time. I'll learn it tomorrow. That's what we also do, right? We will say, oh yeah, we will learn it tomorrow. Or okay, it's fine. I'll do it tomorrow. I don't have time today. This is what we also say to ourselves. But now you see where we have come out. That's the great trouble with Alcides. She puts off learning till tomorrow. The teacher is telling to Franz, now you see what is the issue with putting it off to tomorrow. See, that is the issue with our town too. Alcides is their town's name. She puts off learning till tomorrow. We always think that there is a plenty of time tomorrow. Tomorrow we will learn it. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it? You pretend to be Frenchman and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language? So what is it? Now see, now the Alsace is in the hands of Prussia. So now they will come and tell. Now they will come and tell us what? Oh, you think you are Frenchman. You say that you are Frenchman. You pretend you are Frenchman. But you can neither speak your language or write your language. They say they are Frenchmen, but they cannot write their language or speak their language fluently. But they say that they are Frenchmen. But you are not the worst. Poor little France, we have all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. The master is saying him, don't worry France, but you are not the worst of them. Even we have something to reproach ourselves with. What is reproach? Reproach is something to disapprove ourselves of. That the master is telling him, he's not the worst. We also have something to disapprove ourselves with. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or the mills so as to have a little more money. So your parents are also at fault. Fran's parents are also at fault. They were not anxious enough to have him learn. What did they think? Oh no, if he goes to farm and do work or go to mill and do work, we can have a little more money. So even if he doesn't go to school, the parents did not mind. They were not pushing him to go to school. And I have been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? So the teacher is saying, your parents are also at fault and even I am also at fault. So why is the teacher at fault? Why does the teacher think he's at fault? He have sent the students to water his flowers in the garden instead of learning their lessons. And when the teacher felt like going for fishing, he just told the students that it's a holiday. He just gave them a holiday. Then from one thing to another, Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. So one after the other, the teacher went on talking about French, that it was the most beautiful language in the world. It was the clearest and most logical language in the world. And he also told them that they have to guard it among them and not forget it. You have to learn. You have to learn. Only then can they pass on to the next generation. So you have to learn and don't forget what you have learned. We must guard it among us and never forget it, because when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. So what does Hamel think? That even if you are enslaved, that is like now their town is under Prussia, so they are enslaved, they are as a slave to them. So even if they are enslaved, if you know your own language and you hold on to them, it is like having a key to your own prison. You will be free one day. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. So after speaking about the language, he started to teach them the rest of the grammar. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed so easy, I think too, that I had never listened so carefully and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. So that day, whatever Hamel taught them, Franz felt that it was all very, very easy to learn. And also he thought that he have never ever listened to a French class so attentively, so carefully, and that never ever has his teacher explained the lessons to them with so much patience. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. So let's just go through a quick summary. So what did we learn? What was the first thing that we learned? That day, our little Franz was very late for school, and he started late in the morning, and he was dreadful of scolding from his teacher. His teacher told that he will be questioning everyone about the participles, about French grammar. But our little Franz did not know anything about participles. So for a split second he thought that, okay, today I will just bunk school. He thought of, okay, I'll just bunk school and spend the day out of doors. It was so warm, so bright, the perfect morning to just bunk school. But then he suddenly gathered up some courage and thought, okay, no, I'll just go to school anyways. And he started running down the town. And while he was passing the town, he saw that there was some notice on the board there. At that time, they used to put out notice on the board so that everyone knew of the latest news. But then he didn't have the time to stop there and check what it was, so he did not stop. And without stopping, he wondered what could it have been. And who was there? There was a blacksmith named Watcher with his apprentice. And when he saw Franz running, he told, there is no need to go so fast. You will get your school in plenty of time. So when our Franz heard this, he thought, okay, he is just mocking at me, and he did not stop, and he just suddenly ran to school. Now he reached Hammel's garden, his teacher's garden, all out of breath. So usually when the school began, there would be great bustle, like there would be noises from there, the great noise where students just open and close the drawers, or they just repeat their lesson together. But on that day, there were nothing to be heard. It was as if it was a Sunday morning in school. Even the teacher's ruler tapping on the table, even the sound of teacher's ruler rapping on the table was not to be heard. So when Franz looked through the window, he saw that all his classmates are already in their places, and his teacher was walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler. Now what? Oh, I have to go inside the class. I have to open the door and go in before everybody. So he was so blushed. Now he was so frightened. But nothing happened. It was so unusual that nothing happened. His teacher saw Franz and he told, okay, you have come. We were just starting the class without you. Now go in your place quickly. So as soon as Franz heard that, he just went and sat down at his desk. But after some time, when he just took his time and settled down, he just noticed something. His teacher was wearing a beautiful green coat and his frilled shirt with little black silk cap, all embroidered, and that was something the teacher wore only on inspection and prize ties. And he also noticed something else. The whole school was so strange and everything was so quiet. But the thing that surprised Franz most was that when he noticed the villagers sitting on the back bench. There was all Hauser with three-cornered hat, the former postmaster, and several others. Everybody was looking sad. And Hauser had also brought in his old primer. Primer is a book which was used in the foundation stage. It was all thumbed at the edges. That was all worn out at the edges. He was keeping it open on his knees with his spectacles lying across the pages. So while he was wondering about all these things, Hamel mounted in his chair and he announced to the class that, my children, this will be the last class that I will be giving you. There is an order that has come from Berlin that there is no need to teach any more French in the towns of Alsace and Lorraine. Only German is needed, and from tomorrow onwards only German will be taught to you guys. And so this will be your last French class. So I want everyone to be very attentive. Oh, now what a thunderclap these words were to little Franz. And now Franz understood what was the notice that was down in the town when he ran to school. My last French lesson. Oh no, I did not even know how to write French. Now I have to suddenly stop learning. Now he started thinking, oh no, All those days I wasted going in search of birds, eggs, and without learning my lessons. And all those books, all these days I thought that the books were very heavy to carry. His history of saints, history book, his grammar book, everything was so heavy to carry till now. But then now I feel that now he felt that all those were his old friends suddenly. And even his teacher who had those who used to punish them using the iron ruler, and who was very cranky, now he started feeling that he will miss him too. Now he realized that is why his teacher had on us fine Sunday clothes, and that is why the old men in the village came to their class that day, because they were also feeling bad that they did not go to school more, that they did not learn French more. It was the villagers' way of thanking the teacher for his 40 years of service and for the respect for their country that was theirs no more, because France lost their war to the Prussians. So while our little Franz was thinking about all these things, while all these things were going through his head, he heard that his name was called by the teacher. Now it was his turn to recite the participle. Oh, what would I have not given to be able to say the participles thoroughly without any mistake. But now what to do? He did not learn the participles and he didn't know the answer to it. So he got mixed up even on the first words, he just stood there holding on to the desk and with his heart beating, but he just could not bring up his eyes to meet his teacher. But then Hamel said to him, "Don't worry, I'm not going to scold you, I'm not going to shout at you. You must be feeling bad enough now. See, this is how it is. We say ourselves that there is time tomorrow. And now see where we have come to. Now do we have any more time to learn French? No, today is our last class." And that is the issue with Alsace as well. Our town just put everything off to tomorrow. Now tomorrow the Germans will come and ask us, how can you call yourself Frenchmen when you don't even know how to speak or write in French? But then the teacher told, France is not the worst. Everyone, all of us has something to reproach ourselves with. Now your parents, now it's not just your fault, your parents are also at fault, because they did rather that you just worked in the farm or on the mill so that they can earn little more money. They were not anxious enough to send you to school, and I am also at fault. Why did the teacher think he was at fault? Because he also sent them to water his plants in the garden instead of learning their lessons. And when he felt that he wants to go fishing, he just gave a leave day, he just gave a holiday to his students. So like that, from one on to another, Hamel went on talking about the French language. He said that it was the most beautiful and logical and the clearest language in the whole world. He told that we must be guarding it amongst ourselves. We must be passing it on to the next generation. And according to him, if the people who are enslaved knew their own language, it's as if they have the key to their own prison. They have the key to their prison. Then he opened his grammar and read them their lesson, and Franz felt that it was so easy. He understood everything. And he also felt that he had never listened to a class this keenly, this carefully, and he felt that his teacher had never explained a chapter with so much patience. And it seemed as if the teacher just wanted to impart all his knowledge to the students at one stroke. So after grammar, they had a lesson in writing, and Hamel had new copies for the students, and in it it was written France Alsace, and they looked like small flags floating everywhere in this classroom. And everyone just started with their writing lesson, and it was so quiet that the only sound that came was the scratching of the pens over the paper when they wrote their lesson. Now at one time a beetle flew in, but nobody paid any attention. Even the little ones did not care. They were just tracing fish hooks. They were very busy tracing the fish hooks as if that was French too. Now there was a pigeon which made noise on the roof, and what did Franz think in his mind? Oh no, will the Germans make the pigeons sing in German too, or make noise in German too? And whenever Franz looked up from his writing, he saw that the teacher was sitting motionless in his chair, just gazing, looking at one thing and then the other. But somehow the teacher had the courage to hear every lesson till the very last. So after the writing, they had a lesson in history. So that day they had a lesson in grammar, then they went to writing, and then now they had a lesson in history, and all the little ones chanted their alphabets. And our old houser from the village also chanted the alphabets with the little ones with his primer in both hands and with his spectacles. So when he recited the lesson, everyone could hear that he was also crying. His voice was trembling with emotion. It was funny, but then they wanted to laugh and cry as well. So suddenly it became, the church clock struck 12 and there was Angelus prayer. So, and at the same moment, all the trumpets of the Prussian, they could hear the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers who was returning from the drill. And suddenly Hamel stood up and he was looking very pale. He had lost all the color in his cheeks, in his face. And Franz felt that he have never saw him look so tall. And he said, "My friends," he started, "my friends, but then he got choked in between. He just could not go on. He was very sad. Then what did he do? He turned onto the blackboard, took a piece of chalk and gathered all the courage, mustered all the courage that he could, and he wrote, "Vive le France, long live France." Then he stopped, leaned his head against the wall, and without saying anything, he made a gesture with his hands. He just showed with his hands, "School is dismissed, you may go." Now the school is dismissed, or everyone can disperse. So that's it about the chapter. It's a very short and sweet chapter, and it was just a short way of just a glance on telling us how life was during those years of war from 1870 to 1871. So how it had affected the life at school.